Maddy Glab here with Jen Mueller from the Seattle Seahawks. Jen, thanks for being with us today, taking the time. I know you're prepping for this game just like I am. So many storylines to look forward to in this one. You've got a 6-1 team in the Seahawks, a 6-2 team in the Buffalo Bills, and this 6-1 Seahawks team, it's their second time in franchise history starting the season 6-1. The last time they were 6-1 was in 2013 when they won the Super Bowl. This team looks a little bit different than the Super Bowl team from 2013 in that they're doing it with their offense this season. So how is the Seahawks team able to collect 6 wins in 2020?
Well, I think you just hit it on the head, Maddie. It really has been the offense, which is unusual for a Pete Carroll coached team. Pete Carroll is a defensive-minded coach. Defense has always been the strength. If you go back to the Legion of Boom during that Super Bowl run, and this year, it has taken a bit for the defense to come together. Now, a lot of that is injuries, but I also think it would be overshadowed by the offense in any case this year. DK Metcalf, year 2, has made an incredible improvement. Tyler Lockett has always been there as a steady go-to wide receiver. But I think the biggest difference, and the reason the Seahawks are out in front the way they are in the NFC, is because of the points and the yards that they put up per game. There is this phrase in Seattle, let Russ cook, which means just let him do what he's going to do with his arm. And it looks like that's what the Seahawks have done. I would say this, they are utilizing the passing game earlier in the game and earlier in downs than they were before. Usually in the past, they would have tried to be establishing the run on first and second down. This year, they're opening it up early. It has led to early points in games and a lot of yards per game.
Yeah, the team's averaging 34.3 points per game. That leads the league. Russell Wilson also leads the league in his passer rating, 120.8. You're scoring touchdowns, number 1 rated in the league, doing it 88% of the time when you're in the red zone. So this team is very efficient at getting into the red zone and scoring once they're in the red zone. But Russell Wilson specifically, you've covered this team for quite a few years, so you've seen him turn into this quarterback that he's become. What specifically can you point to as being different about him this year?
You know, I think what we are seeing is just a new appreciation for him. And he has receivers that he trusts in even the tightest windows. DK Metcalf could be double covered, and he can still fit it into that one little window that only DK can go up and get it in. Tyler Lockett might be at the back of the end zone, but Russ knows that he can put it right there and expect that toe tap touch and catch to be good for the touchdown. I would say this, the thing about Russell Wilson and the reason why it appears that he has burst onto the scene right now is because of the playmakers, not what he has changed. He has been consistent from day one. Now, yes, of course, he understands the game in a different way. He's always studying. He never stops preparing. But I do think when you allow him to showcase his arm, and he has a great deep ball, right? We spend a lot of time talking about the plays that the wide receivers make. Watch the plays that he's going to make on Sunday and watch how he just puts it right in their hands so that they never break stride, so that they never have to look back. Russ has always been this high-level player, and it's the playmakers on the other side, I think, that are causing people to look at Russ in a very different way.
Yeah, Bills head coach Sean McDermott said this game is going to be so important for our defensive line because we know what Russ can do, but it's going to be difficult because he can run just as much as he can throw. Thankfully, the Bills have a pretty stacked up secondary. Health-wise, we'll see how it works out for Sunday, but I think they'll have Tre'Davious White. Hopefully, they'll have Micah Hyde back. But this matchup in general, I mean, you've got a top 3 offense in the Seahawks going up against a defense who was ranked top 3 last season in the Bills. Now they've fallen a little bit. I think still trying to figure out their identity, allowing 24.9 points per game. And then you've got the Bills offense who's definitely improved, similar to the Seahawks. It's Josh Allen's weapons around him that are adding to the success of this Bills offense. And they're going up against the Seattle Seahawks defense, who, like you said, is not what they used to be, but you get some pieces back this week, definitely, in Jamal Adams, and you add someone like Carlos Dunlap. But the matchup in general, what sticks out to you about these two teams facing each other in week 9?
I would say this. If I was going to drill down, it is the third down percentage and conversion
Mhm.
rate. As you know, the Bills are the best in the NFL. One of the reasons for that, and everybody was talking about it during press conferences this week with the Seahawks, was Josh Allen and his ability to make the right decision on third down and the use of his legs when he needs to pick up those short yards. And the Seahawks defense has yet to figure out that really the most efficient defensive line combination. Now, part of that is due to injuries, but we don't know how Jamal Adams is going to work in there and how much pressure they're going to bring and how much they want to bring when Josh Allen can do so many different things. On the flip side of that, the Seahawks are coming off their best week at converting on third downs, but that has been a struggle for them. And as you pointed out, you have some pretty nice pieces in the secondary taking away some of those options. So if I'm looking at just one matchup, I am going to be really tuned in to the third down conversions on both sides of this one.
Yeah, that'll definitely be interesting. The Bills have been so great at converting third downs on offense. On defense, they have definitely struggled with third down defense. They rank at the bottom of the league in that category and have been trying to get better. Hopefully, they can figure it out a little bit for this game, but we'll have to see. Speaking of Seahawks defense, you mentioned Jamal Adams, Carlos Dunlap. What do you think these two players can do in this game to make an impact? This Seattle Seahawks defense has been struggling, ranked at the bottom of the league, allowing about 460 yards a game, 28.4 points per game. They're really good against the run, but that's probably because a lot of people like to throw the ball against Seattle because they know they're going to have to run up the scoreboard to even have a chance to beat Russell Wilson. So how do you see these two players maybe playing an impact, helping this defense out in week 9?
Yeah, so I would say this. Easy answer to your question, they're going to bring some juice and some energy. Jamal Adams he was on the sidelines last week. He wasn't suited up. He was coming back from the groin injury. He'd had an illness during the course of the week. He was as active as any player not playing the game could be without actually being on the field. He is chomping at the bit to get back out there. And you know that he's going to have some fresh legs. Same thing with Carlos Dunlap. As Pete Carroll said, it's not that he can't play football right now. He's not coming off an injury. He's coming off essentially a week off as you go through COVID protocols when you enter a new facility. So he is ready to go. And you could just tell when we talked to him this week, he is so excited about joining a team that wants to use him a significant amount during the games, and that wants to use him to really maximize his strength. I would expect him to bring a lot of pressure. I would expect to see Jamal Adams a lot in blitzing. We've seen Bobby Wagner do that, but I wonder if you don't leave Bobby back there just a little bit and bring Jamal a few more times. One more thing about the yards given up for the Seahawks. So they are coming off their best defensive performance where they allowed 350 yards against the 49ers. Now, I realize that was a really banged up club. Here's what I'd like to point out. They allowed 112 total yards through 3 quarters in that game against San Francisco. And then there were some things that happened in the fourth quarter, but part of it is the Seahawks offense is jumping out to such big leads or scoring first. You're playing a lot of catch up. The Seahawks are content to play a very soft zone late in the game. Just keep everything in front of them without scoring the points, right? So those numbers get a little bit skewed and it makes it look like it's the worst defense in history. And I totally get that. But when you watch them play, you know that that's not the case. It's part of the philosophy that they're playing with right now. And it's come back to bite them once or twice at the end of games when you can't get that critical stop. But some of those yards get taken a little bit out of context if you're not watching kind of how they have allowed those yards to get racked up.
Definitely that soft zone that you point to is something that Josh Allen and his offense have experienced really the last few weeks, in that they came out with a hot start, scoring a lot of points, putting a lot of points on the scoreboard, and then defenses start to play you differently, trying to slow you down, make you have those long drives, play some soft zone, keep everything in front of you. And Josh has really had to learn how to take what the defense gives him and find success in that, which they've been doing a little bit better job of getting to the red zone by stringing together some pretty long drives. But We've mentioned a lot of these big name players on the Seahawks: Russell Wilson, Bobby Wagner, Jamal Adams, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. Who are some not so big names that the Bills need to look out for on Sunday?
I'm going to give you two, one on each side of the ball. On defense, DJ Reed. It looks like he is going to be playing nickel again. Ugo Amadi has been dealing with a hamstring. DJ Reed, while a newcomer to the Seahawks, actually has a few years in the league. He had a really nice game on Sunday. He is an explosive player, and while you might not recognize the name, I would absolutely watch out for him to be a playmaker in the secondary. On offense, it's Travis Homer. The Seahawks running back situation is really up in the air right now. Carson will probably be a game day decision. Carlos Hyde is dealing with a hamstring. And the more you hear them talk, the more it seems unlikely that he's going to be able to make it back. Homer is typically the third down back for the Seahawks. He was injured last week and really only suited up in an emergency behind the rookie DJ Dallas. But I would expect that Homer is going to get a significant number of carries. I would also expect that he's going to be on the field quite a bit because he is tremendous in pass pro. When you see him, he is not a big running back like Chris Carson or Marshawn Lynch, who we know and who Bills fans know, right? Yes. But he is an explosive runner. He's got great hands. And again, that pass pro. And I'll also say this, for all the injuries that the Seahawks have dealt with, the one place that they have not dealt with many injuries is the offensive line. And that has been a conversation here in Seattle for years. And just, how come the offensive line is allowing so many hits on Russell Wilson? That's not really happening this year. He's taken some coverage sacks and he hasn't gotten the ball out quite as quickly as he should have a few times, but that offensive line has been pretty stout. Travis Homer is going to help with that pass pro.
Offensive line is so important in this game. The Bills have been dealing with some issues on the offensive line, just getting a couple players back from IR, one player specifically back from IR recently. Our center has been dealing with a concussion, so we're not sure about his status for the game. When your offensive line isn't strong, it's really tough to protect the quarterback in a matchup. But Jen, thank you so much for the time. We definitely appreciate it. This game this weekend is one that a lot of people have been looking forward to. It'll be interesting to see if a team can finally slow down this Seahawks offense.
It will be a fun matchup for sure. Thanks for having me, Maddy.